and welcome to this webinar on ease of use with SOAR. My name is Sergio, and I work as a product marketing manager here at Logpoint. And today I will be your host for this webinar on the latest development on SOAR in Logpoint's Converged SIEM platform. Before we start, allow me to go through some practical information. First of all, this session is recorded in case you haven't noticed, and there is a little mention on top of your screen about it. This way, we will be able to send you the recording after this webinar. And to help me explain the ins and outs of our latest development on SOAR today, here with me I have Eddie Almer, who's our product director here at Logpoint. And with him, we are going to delve into all the details of this new version of SOAR. As you can see or as you will see in the agenda, throughout this session, we are gonna talk a little bit about SOAR, but we'll start with a little introduction to our new format of product release. Then we will proceed with the improvements of SOAR 1.51. And we are gonna do it by starting with case management improvements. Then we will move to playbook improvements. And lastly, we will talk about operational improvements. In addition to it, Eddie is going to give a little demo on SOAR. We're also going to be taking questions at the end of this presentation. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to add them in the chat or using the Q&A feature that you will see at the bottom of your screen. And we will go through them during our Q&A session at the end. Now, without further ado, I'm just going to hand it over to you, Eddie. The stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Sergio. So I'm starting the discussion today not with an overview of feature. We've made what I think is a really important change to our release process. We've seen in the past cases where large enterprise deployments that have a lot of different stuff in them and a lot of variations, it's hard to find every single permutation out there and test it. And if you try to upgrade early in the process your systems, you may have run into certain early bugs when we were doing major releases. So we decided to expand our process of beta, right? In the past, we did friendly betas with a few of you who were interested in features in the new versions, and we were testing mostly the new features. But what we're doing now is we're greatly improving the regression testing for the versions and making sure that your upgrades, even if you don't have a specific feature that you require, are going to be much, much easier. So the general availability versions will have a much better enterprise readiness. The way we've done it is by leveraging the fact that we have a SaaS offering, right? Many of you are still on-prem, but some of the people attending with us today are already using our SIEM and SOAR as part of our SaaS capability. And what we're doing is we're first deploying every new version that we're releasing, meaning a 0.0 version, like the SOAR 1.50. That was the first case where we did this. We're first releasing it, first of all, eating our own dog food. The first customer in SaaS that is actually getting those upgrades is Logpoint itself, and our CISO and his team know that they're constantly on the cutting edge. They keep getting all the new versions, and this allows our engineers full access and a very quick validation that the versions are good, or if there is any problem, fixing this problem before even any of our SaaS customers sees it. Then we expand to a few friendly SaaS customers, and then we deploy to all SaaS customers. By that stage, you can be sure that a double-digit number of customers with various types of environments have already deployed the version. We found any problems that may be in it and fixed them. Only then do we release the 0.1 version. And the 0.1 version, 151 in this case, for SOAR, is the actual version that we are releasing to our on-prem customers. So in the past, you used to wait for a .x version. And what you can be sure now is that the 0.1 version will have significant road mileage by the time you come and download it. And we expect those downloads to be a lot more stable than just even our point releases earlier that only fix bugs. So SOAR 151 was released back in August, after we released 1.5 in July and deployed it to our SaaS customers. We actually did find a couple of problems, specifically in the upgrade process. And as a result, most of you were spared any kind of concern from those bugs. And now I'll talk a little bit about, hey, after all this process, why would I even bother to upgrade? So we're investing a lot in case management. Some of you may be using our incidents as the main interface for consuming our alerts. Others may have third-party systems like the Hive that you're using for case management. And what we're doing is investing significant effort so that both the MSSPs in the audience that are managing multiple tenants and all of the individual security teams will be able to consume information about attacks that is better filtered, better enriched, and better correlated than what is currently possible with incidents only. So we're bringing in together correlating multiple incidents, and we're able to show the artifacts and the MITRE mapping for every single artifact, for every single incident in the case. And we're adding a graph view of all the artifacts coming from the various incidents into the case, making it much easier for you to understand the overall view about an attack, and no less important, allowing you to better prioritize which cases you look at, because a case that includes multiple incidents coming from multiple sources would invariably be a lot more reliable in pointing out that something significant is happening. So if you're currently looking through many incidents to find one that is interesting, or if you're looking at dashboards in various areas of the product in order to potentially hunt for something that is unusual, a case would help the analysts in the crowd and the SOC analysts specifically find and deal with the most serious, most interesting things in a way that is much easier and more effective, more efficient than dealing with incidents or dealing with a third-party system. So those are the case management improvements. We said we added the ability to view the MITRE viewing mapping for every incident. We added a graph view of the artifacts of hosts connected to users, connected to emails, showing, hey, you actually have 3 different users on this host, every single one of them compromised. That must be interesting. And you have the ability to export the detailed case summary to PDF. This is great for communicating with people who don't have access to the system. It's also great for simply doing a shift handover and basically showing the person who is replacing you for a new shift what open cases you have and what needs to be handled. We also invested in rounding up the capabilities for playbooks. The playbooks are pretty rich by now, and now we're starting to hear edge cases that you have with specific needs. So for example, we have a nice conditional branch that would allow you to select any flow that you want, but in some cases it may have required multiple blocks of and or conditions to actually reach a conclusion what you want to run. We're allowing you to put in a composite and or block that would allow you to put in complex conditions and decide not based on a single variable that you need to build in a different block, but bring in all the different data and do one condition, composite one, that would allow you to make a good decision on the flow. Another important thing is allowing the async execution of playbook. What does asynchronous mean? In some cases, you may run a playbook, and then the playbook needs to wait for input. So one type of such input, you already know from past versions, we are able to wait for input from an analyst that would make a decision which way a playbook should flow. However, in many cases, we're integrating with external systems. It could be, for example, an external ticketing system. We're opening a ticket into your ServiceNow, or we're opening a ticket into your Jira, and we actually want the playbook to continue after the ticket reaches a certain state, or after somebody puts in a comment or opens that ticket at the other end. This is something that is not immediate. It could take minutes, it could take hours, in some cases it could take days. And it's important that the playbooks don't remain in active state while they're waiting for that to happen. The same kind of example exists, for example, with XDR, where you may get an alert about something being wrong, and the analyst looks at it and says, oh, I would like to remove this executable from these endpoints. And you ask the other system to do that, but obviously it wouldn't do it immediately. Some of those endpoints may not be available. Your CEO happens to be in the air with his laptop shut down, and he will only land in 4 hours, and only when he gets to the hotel, that endpoint would connect back to the system and would need to get the command, and then you can also verify that everything is successful. So you wait for feedback from the third-party system, not for seconds, but in some cases for hours or for days. So we're allowing async execution of playbooks. Well, to take advantage of that, obviously, there needs to be an API for the other party to get back to us and to say, continue. So we've opened up and fully documented our external API. It's available for you if you want to execute any playbooks from outside, or if you want to do any async playbooks. And also, if you want to do any other kind of interaction with our SOAR, the APIs are fully open. They, of course, require strict authentication. But once you have that, you are able to interact with SOAR from the outside with a third-party system or from your own browser using API calls. Last but not least, we've added the ability to do some operational improvements. First of all, we've exposed in the GUI the ability to terminate pending playbooks. Some of you have had cases where an external party, for various reasons, raised up many alerts, that opened many incidents, that opened many playbooks. So then once you realize what went wrong, those playbooks remain in pending state, and you may want to get rid of every single one of them. To do that, in the past, our support would go into the database and purge them. We've exposed it to the GUI to make it easy. If you run into such a problem when debugging, to quickly and easily get rid of the playbooks that are clogging your view. We've also expanded the number and variety of generic playbooks. What we call generic playbooks are playbooks that perform a certain action, for example, isolate host, and they are independent of the underlying system. So it could be an underlying CrowdStrike where we want to isolate host, or our own Agent X that we're using for isolating host, or it could be a Trend Micro where we're isolating a host. And even if you have, as an MSSP, multiple customers with multiple different systems, when you're updating a playbook that details how you want to respond in the case that you found a phishing email or some kind of malware on the systems, and you've made improvements to your remediation playbook, and you added 2 more steps, well, now you don't need to modify 6 different playbooks. Or if you have more than one system type involved, you start going into 6 times 6. Or if you have more than 6, well, you get my gist. Those numbers grow very quickly, and having a generic playbook for many types of actions is a very useful thing, especially for actions that are used quite often by many different playbooks. So we've made a much longer list of generic playbooks, mainly around endpoint, but not only, also around firewalls, around identity. And they're documented. You can see the updated documentation. Some of you felt that our documentation was not detailed enough, so the customer-facing documentation has improved. And for those of you that are planning to develop playbooks and modify our playbooks and make changes over time, so we're just letting you know that the developer documentation is also going to improve coming up in the next versions. Last but definitely not least is SaaS support for SOAR. So this is not something that we promised is coming right up, but because of our great SaaS architecture, it was quite easy for us to get SOAR up and running in our SaaS. And as a result, any of you in SaaS or considering moving to SaaS know that what it currently means is that you no longer have to give up on SOAR or on case management under any circumstance. It's fully available to all of you for anything you want to do. So with that, this is version 150 and 151 in terms of the main features. There's a few additional smaller things and bug fixes. I didn't go into every single detail. You can see the release notes if you want to see more detail. And you need to know one more thing. The release process allows us to move much quicker in terms of deliveries. So the next version after 151 is 2.0, and it's coming. Remember, 2.0 is the beta and SaaS version, and it's coming as early as end of September, beginning of October, which is pretty close. 2.1, 2.01 will be coming out roughly a month after that. So there is a another version already in the pipeline. Having talked for so long, I'll open up the floor to you for any questions you have. And after the questions, we can probably move to, or you know what? Let's do the questions first. So any questions from the audience regarding, I'll remind you, operational or playbooks or case management?
Yes, thank you, Eddie. So first of all, it was wonderful, and thank you for this presentation. And also, it seems that we have some questions. While we are answering, remember as well, everyone, you can add more. You can add as many questions as you have. So far, we have some few of them. One of the questions is, can I connect to on-premises systems from SaaS SOAR?
So yeah, the SOAR that we're connecting to our SaaS instances is a full-fledged SOAR. It is running in the cloud on the SaaS side. So you need to open a VPN so it can connect back into the organization to connect to any on-prem tools that you have. But the capability is definitely available, and we have customers that are doing that.
All right. Someone else asked about the MITRE tactics, techniques, and procedures. So where are these MITRE TTPs based on?
So the MITRE TTPs, you may have seen a screenshot where every incident in the case is mapped to one or more, in some cases, TTPs from MITRE. And it comes from a very straightforward place. The flow is that one of our rules is triggering an alert. That alert opens an incident, and the incident triggers the playbook. The playbook takes all the data from the incident, actually does some nice correlation, and looks for an already open case with the same information. And if there is one, it would just add the incident in. So where does the TTP come from? If you look at what our alerts, our Logpoint alerts, you'll see that every single one of them has a TTP attached to it, and it just flows with it through the system. So when we have an incident that was triggered by an alert, the TTP for that incident that goes into the case is coming from the rule settings in the first place.
All right. Someone else also asked, what is connected in the case graph?
Okay, so the case graph, maybe I jump a little bit back and I can show you case graph.
It's
No?
there's no graph in the
No graph here. So what the case graph shows is basically a connection of what we call artifacts. Artifacts are the important components in an alert. So usually when you have an alert, the alert is actually making a condition on a set of logs, looking for a certain condition to be met. Once the condition is met, we have the original raw log, and we have the set of information where raw log match the condition. Within that set of fields in the raw logs, some of them, we refer to them as artifacts. They are usernames, email addresses, host names, IP addresses, domain names, caches, file names. And we are using those as important components. We're standardizing on their taxonomy. So we have the same name for user, whether the logs are coming from Azure or from AgentX or from CrowdStrike. And we are connecting those artifacts according to the incident. So let's say we have a case with 3 incidents. The first incident would have a user and a host and an email. And the second one would have a host and a domain where it reaches out. And the third one would have a host and an executable. So you'll have the host in the middle, and it will connect to the user and the email and the domain and the hash. And then if we get a 4th incident where the same hash was seen on a different host, then we have a host connected to a hash connected to a second host. So the connection is based on the incident from which the artifacts are coming. Each of them is coming as a connected star, and the stars are connecting through joint values. So if we have 2 different incidents that share the same host, they're connected to the host. If they're sharing the same user doing actions on 2 different hosts, then you would have host 1, host 2, and in the middle, the user.
Nice.
Any other questions from?
I cannot see any other questions.
We have all of them. With a quick show of hands, is there, how many people here are already upgraded to 151? You can simply not that many. Yeah. So for any of you looking to upgrade your case management capabilities or to use out-of-the-box content from us, in addition to the playbooks you're developing, 151 would be a great system a great version to download. And if obviously it's available on the portal, if you have any questions to us, we'll be very happy to help you. And I guess I'll see you soon on our next release.
Yes. Thank you. Wasn't it wonderful? Thank you again for your answers, Eddie. And also thank you very much to all of you for all your questions. Again, if there are questions, as Eddie said, you can just reach out our team. They will be happy to help you. If nothing else, here it concludes our webinar on ease of use with SOAR, streamline investigation and response. As well, if you're curious to know more about SOAR, as I mentioned before, you can just contact us. Our team will help you out with not only SOAR, but any of other products and services that are offered by Logpoint. As well, stay tuned to our blog and social media as we constantly publish new content such as security analysis and emerging threat reports, as well as any new releases. And again, thank you for joining us today, and until the next time, bye.